Well, the Spurs' two-time All-Star Kawhi Leonard wants out of San Antonio, according to our Chris Haynes, with sources telling Haynes that Kawhi has grown frustrated with how they handled his quad injury. Feels they turned on him when he sought a second opinion, and tweeting some pretty strong language about feelings of betrayal, says Haynes, something that may appear irreparable. For more, we welcome in Adrian Wojnarowski, who's done a lot of fine reporting on this. So this is all happening with the draft 5 days away. Of course, the trade deadline isn't until February, so the Spurs can afford to take their time. But we've heard really some disturbing reports about the fissure in that relationship. And after all these years and what they were able to accomplish together, what's your sense of the scenario of whether or not this can be repaired?
Well, San Antonio wants to sit down with Kawhi Leonard. They haven't heard directly from him that he wants out. And Greg Popovich had been working with him on getting together in the same place, maybe in California where Kawhi is, and talking. And so San Antonio is not going to do anything until that happens. They want to continue to build their franchise around Kawhi Leonard, and they still have the opportunity to offer Leonard a 5-year, $219 million Supermax contract that he's eligible for, and that's more than anybody else can pay him.
Why hasn't this happened already? I mean, it seems like a pretty simple thing, right? Pick up the phone. This has gone really, really far at this point, and let at least those two men sit down.
Well, it's been the intention in San Antonio for that to happen. You know, with the passing of Greg Popovich's wife, and there was time he took away at the end of the season. Leonard went to memorial service for her in San Antonio, and then has been mostly away in California and maybe on a couple of vacations. But it's imperative, I think, before the Spurs do anything, that they talk. But there are teams calling. They started calling yesterday. They've been calling. Sure. And, you know, San Antonio's not hanging the phone up. They're going to listen, see what else is available out there. But their first priority is to still try to find a way to go forward together. And, again, he's under contract for another year.
Right. It would make a lot of sense, though, for them, obviously, to take incoming calls to really weigh all these scenarios. You've talked about Leonard liking the possibility of going to Los Angeles. Then, of course, we have the LeBron James scenario sitting out there this summer. Given everything that's going on, what are likely destinations for this first domino here of Kawhi Leonard?
You know, listen, it is conceivable that the Lakers could put a package together that would turn the Spurs' heads based on what else is out there. But Boston remains the team with the most assets of young players and a lot of future first-round draft picks. And Boston's a team that, listen, I think they believe that any player they bring in there, they could convince to re-sign and stay. Kawhi Leonard wouldn't have to be the face of the franchise. He wouldn't have to be do things that he's uncomfortable with. He doesn't like the attention. They have other stars to help deflect that in Boston. But the Lakers can get at Leonard in free agency in 2019, or they can try to put a package together and do it now. You can believe this, though. The Spurs don't have great enthusiasm about just handing him over to the Lakers and giving maybe both sides what they want.
That makes a lot of sense. Adrian, always great to be with you. You know, we've never done a segment together, but they couldn't keep us apart forever.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anna.
Keep him out of the preseason.
He's had quad injuries dating back to spring of 2016. That is worrisome.
Kawhi Leonard out for the season opener.
Look at Leonard, difficulty just making up the stairs of the team playing.
Really.
Still no timetable for his return.
My hope is that this is classic Spurs caution.
Missed the first 27 regular season games.
Just taking my time so I could be healthy down the road.
Legs look just fine there. Oh, it's great to have him back.
Kawhi Leonard has a partial tear in his left shoulder.
He played 9 games, and he didn't really seem right.
Kawhi Leonard, he's out indefinitely. Horrible situation. Yeah, it's bad.
Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs now have a strained relationship.
The team held a players-only meeting. His own teammates said, come play with us.
Kawhi Leonard has told them, I've got good reason why I haven't played.
For me, he's not coming back because he's not healthy.
He's up for the Supermax. There's a lot of money on the line this
There may be a chance that Kawhi played his last game with the Spurs.
Can he repair the relationship and keep Kawhi, or is he going to have to move him?
Kawhi reportedly wants out of San Antonio, maybe looking at the Lakers. Our NBA front office insider Bobby Marks with us now. So Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, you had to figure they were thinking, how are we going to get LeBron and maybe Paul George under the tent? And now Kawhi Leonard crops up. So let's go there first. How would they get Leonard on this team?
Well, David, I think first we have to look at what their assets are right now. Lonzo Ball,
Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, Luol Deng. Here is your sticking point right there. Right? $37 million owed. If I'm San Antonio, that's a non-starter for me to take back that money. Ingram, Kuzma, they also have, Lakers also have their draft pick this year and future picks. That might be appealing here. Lonzo Ball, no, that's not something that would entice me if I am R.C. Buford in San Antonio. Okay, so that being said, does it look like it's going to be problematic for them to be able to acquire Kawhi? I would say for Kawhi, probably unrealistic as far as to be able to fit a LeBron James and a Paul George. The Deng number is the holding point. Can you maybe find a third team if you were able to do a Ingram and Kuzma package to San Antonio? Can you find a third team like Atlanta that would maybe take that Deng money in? It will probably cost you 2 second-round picks to do that. If you do, then of course you can get a LeBron James or a Paul George. What about all three? Yeah, I mean, that's... You could get all three of those guys in the same team, I think that's more fantasy. Okay. I think it's great for us if we're playing rotisserie basketball at home. I think the one scenario you can look at is that acquiring Kawhi Leonard, retaining Julius Randle, and also maybe getting a Paul George. That fits right there. And then we'll see what happens with LeBron James. All right, we just heard Woj talking a few minutes ago about the front runners for Kawhi could possibly be the Celtics. What are your thoughts on what that would take? Well, here's your Celtics team right now with Kyrie Irving back. And I think what we need to focus in on is the draft picks, where they are. And they have a treasure chest of draft picks. They've got, this is for 2019, potentially 4. They've got their own. This Sacramento pick could be maybe 2 in the lottery. They've got a Memphis pick that's protected 1 to 8, and the Clippers pick if it goes from if the Clippers make the playoffs next year. This is what if you're San Antonio, this is what you are working with right now, draft picks. The other thing that you're also working with is Jaylen Brown. That is the centerpiece of any deal. If I'm R.C. Buford in San Antonio, the hard part is how do you put all the money together if you don't want to trade a Kyrie Irving or a Jason Tatum or Al Horford? It would probably cost you a Jaylen Brown, a Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, and probably that Sacramento pick to make the money work. Okay, it's just thrown another fascinating wrinkle into this NBA offseason, which was already pretty interesting. Bobby Marks with us here.
With an injured thigh, it will keep him out of the preseason.
He's had quad injuries dating back to spring of 2016. That is worrisome.
Kawhi Leonard out for the season opener.
Look at Leonard, difficulty just making up the stairs. The team playing.
Really?
Still no timetable for his return.
My hope is that this is classic Spurs caution.
Missed the first 27 regular season games.
Just taking my time so that I could be healthy down the road.
Oh, it's great to have him back.
Kawhi Leonard has a partial tear in his left shoulder.
He played 9 games, and he didn't really seem right.
Kawhi Leonard, he's out indefinitely. Horrible situation. Yeah, it's bad.
Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs now have a strained relationship.
The team held a players-only meeting. His own teammates said, come play with us.
Kawhi Leonard has told them, I've got good reason why I haven't played.
For me, he's not coming back because he's not healthy.
He's up for the super max. There's a lot of money on the line this
summer. There may be a chance that Kawhi played his last game with the Spurs.
Can you repair the relationship and keep Kawhi, or is he going to have to move him?
Kawhi Leonard hijacking all of the storylines yesterday. We're back with you here on SportsCenter. Latest news, of course, that he wants out of San Antonio and he wants to go to the Lakers. Adrian Wojnarowski, Bobby Marks here to kind of break this down for us. Woj, what's the latest this morning on this story?
Well, the phone certainly started to ring from rival teams in San Antonio yesterday, almost as soon as the news broke. But remember the playbook in San Antonio last year with LaMarcus Aldridge? Now, it was much quieter, but he asked for a trade. San Antonio didn't acquiesce. They kept talking with him. That's what they're going to try to do with Kawhi Leonard. Greg Popovich still wants to sit down with him face-to-face and talk about this. San Antonio still feels time is on their side. They don't really have to deal with the threat of losing Kawhi Leonard for nothing in free agency next year until the February trade deadline.
And a team like Los Angeles, it's one thing that you want to go there, and it's another thing that if you want to make a deal. And I think if we look at the Lakers, here are your trade assets. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart. The sticking point is this $37 million owed to Luol Deng. And if you're Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson, the perfect scenarios, move Deng,
move a player like Lonzo Ball, move Kyle Kuzma possibly to San Antonio. And that's the ultimate goal, because what that does is that creates the other double max slot for a player like LeBron James, Paul George. We could put the 25th pick in there, and that would be your Laker team. It looks good on fantasy,
sure. Yeah.
But we don't play with fantasy in the NBA, and this is an unrealistic scenario here. Could they find a third home for Dang? Possibly, but that would be have to have San Antonio have some cooperation here.
There was already a Photoshop on the internet yesterday of LeBron, Kawhi, and Paul George. Who's going to beat this team? Probably no one, but you're right. That's fantasy. Let's meet reality now. If the Spurs choose to go this route and trade Kawhi, where are some other suitors?
Boston was interested at the trade deadline. They called San Antonio. Talks did not go anywhere. But I'm told now that Boston would like to get involved in this if Leonard becomes available. And Boston has the best arsenal of young players and draft picks for any team trading a star player. That's a team that if they do move toward a trade, San Antonio would be more inclined to talk with than they are going to be the Lakers.
Well, you're right. The draft picks, they've got 4 picks in 2019. We can look at them right now. They've got a Sacramento pick that is protected #1. That comes from the Kings or Philadelphia. They've got the Memphis pick that's protected 1 to 8. They've got their own pick. They've got a Clipper pick that potentially could be if Los Angeles makes the playoffs. The person to watch would be Jaylen Brown. That would be the marquee player in a trade. The hard part right now is how do you cobble piece a trade to get the numbers to work? Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Jaylen Brown, possibly that Memphis pick. That is the more appealing part.
Tatum, a non-option.
I would say Jason Tatum would be, for me, it would be a non-starter, based on his production this year. But putting those 3 young players, that has more legs than I would say a Laker package.
We're talking a lot about packages and deals, but I want to go back to something that you said before, because part of the reports that we heard from Kawhi and why he wants out of the Spurs is because he feels betrayed, if you will, and how they essentially threw him under the bus with this whole quad injury. With that being said, you said that the Spurs are going to slow approach this thing. Is this a relationship that is irreparable, or could we see some kind of reconciliation and him back off of this trade talk?
Elle, it's hard to tell. And listen, only Leonard knows how he feels about them right now. But the Spurs do believe that they can repair it. And that gets back to Greg Popovich and Leonard sitting down and talking, which had been the plan this week. That news hit like it was a bombshell in San Antonio yesterday. They weren't expecting the reports to come out of Leonard wanting out. They thought they were getting closer to sitting down and talking. And in talking to people, that Greg Popovich is still, for Kawhi Leonard, the one touchstone that he has in San Antonio, the person he feels the best about. And there's history there. There's a lot of shared success. And I think San Antonio, before they give up on this, I think Greg Popovich wants to sit and look Kawhi Leonard in the eye and say, how can we fix this? Can we fix this?
Bobby, front office, I want to ask you, because this is just a player demanding and requesting a trade. You don't have to do anything, do you?
You don't have to do anything at all. You could wait this out into the trade deadline. I understand the pressure of a player on an expiring contract. But the one thing you don't want to do is rush to make a deal, because I think there could be something better down the road. Maybe possibly Thursday night, the night of the draft, but you don't have to be pressured to do anything right now.
And remember, San Antonio can still offer Leonard that 5-year, $219 million Supermax contract. Nobody else can pay him that. They have yet to do that. Would that change the dynamic here if San Antonio offers him that extension?
Take that, summer of LeBron.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard took the headlines going into the draft. We'll see if he gets out of San Antonio. Both of you gentlemen are going to be with us all morning talking Kawhi Leonard and all things NBA as we embark on the NBA draft. Let's go.